Dorian, Doc Allie here. Today we're going to discuss pediatrics rotation and shelf. Stay tuned. It's been a minute. I'm sorry. This is like the second time I've had to do this, right? I've gone on a little hiatus and then I come back, and then I've gone on a hiatus and then I come back. But this time, I think I've figured out a good schedule. I think I'm going to release at the end of every month, and therefore you guys will have a consistent Monday meeting with Doc Allie, but only once a month because these rotations are crazy. They're driving me crazy. And in order for me to still make the content for you guys, it can only happen like once a month. I'm sorry. It's just what it is. Let's start off by talking about my experience in the clinic, and then we'll move from there talking about my shelf prep, and then we'll talk about shelf day. So I finished my Peds rotation about 3 weeks ago because I'm in psych now, and I came back because you guys probably want to hear about this. So Peds rotation, it's funny because I never thought that I would enjoy Peds the way that I did. It released a lot of endorphins seeing the beautiful fat babies, the little kids trying to tell me things that they found very important, but were like, look at that thing on the wall. I had about 60% of well child visits, and then I had about 40% of the occasional sick kid. I've only had one very severely ill child, but he was already diagnosed with leukemia, so it was more of like a referral situation than an emergency situation because, mind you, I was in an outpatient clinic, so never anything really life-threatening within the clinic. I saw a lot of jaundice cases. I learned that jaundice doesn't just mean yellow skin tone, but babies with like really rosy cheeks, those are also babies with jaundice. I've watched my doctor examine for the retinoblastomas with the light reflex. I've watched her check for developmental dysplasia of the hip. And mind you, if you are an outsider looking in, that thing is very scary because you just see the doctor doing this with the baby's hips. And then she'll put him on the stomach, and then she'll check the back to make sure that the leg folds are symmetrical, to make sure that the hips are properly developed. Rashes, fevers with illnesses, pinworms. I never thought I would see that in real life. I saw a pinworm case. I've seen a lot of things, and then like the only rare case that's coming to the top of my mind is I've seen about 2 babies with the development of the ear, so it kind of looks something like this, or like one child only had one part of the ear and there was like a hole. Those were mainly the things that I've seen. We had to do autism screening. Obviously need to know your vaccines in and out for the clinic, not necessarily for the exam. I think I had maybe 4 practice questions and 1 actual question on the test day. Don't quote me though. But in clinic, I feel it's very important to know the age groups for what vaccines are due when. I did a lot of health assessments with adolescents, and I had to build that rapport to let them know that it's safe to talk to me about these things. And while the parent was outside the room, I think that's about it, like for cases, because I didn't get anything too crazy, you know. Breastfeeding failure, that was 1 case. And yeah, but it was interesting and I loved it. I really loved when the babies came in. So let's talk study schedule. When I came home from the clinic, I would read, let me not lie, I was studying in clinic too. Like when we were waiting for patients or in between patients, because the speed wasn't that quick most days, I would just read in the clinic. I would do my Anki flashcards in the clinic. There is a deck out there called Dorian's Peds. You need to get it if you're studying for Peds rotation, because I promise those Anki cards are 1,000 times helpful. I also, of course, will always add in my additional things that I keep getting wrong or need to commit to memory. On top of Anki, I read BRS Peds. Emphasize BRS Peds, because a lot of people don't know about BRS Peds. They're thinking about first aid, they're thinking about step up, but if you read BRS Peds and you're the type of person that's like me, you don't like to just do straight questions, because if you're getting them wrong, that's going to stick to your memory, but you like to read a little and then do a little questions. So I did the system-based Peds BRS readings, and then I did that with Uworld, and I made sure that they aligned. Eventually near the end, of course, I mixed everything in. Like if I had already gone 3 weeks and I had done cardio, respy, and GI, then I would mix all those questions together too. NBMEs, I did all of them. What I did, and there's like, you could do this 2 ways, but what I did was I would buy the NBME, and then after, I think they only give you 50 questions. The shelf is actually 110. So I would add 60 questions via Uworld or Amboss. Another option you have is you could do 2 NBMEs at once. That way you're getting all the high yield information at once, and then you can do like an additional 10 questions from Uworld or Amboss. The reason I have trust issues with building my stamina with strictly NBME questions is because I did not feel that that was preparative. I'm making a word up probably, but I did not feel that that prepared me properly enough for STEP. It did not build my mental stamina, even though I was doing the proper amount of questions. Like I would do, I can't even remember STEP anymore, but I did the correct amount of questions with the NBME plus my Uworld, and I still did not feel like it built my stamina enough. So I'm fine with just doing 50 questions from the NBME and then adding the rest with Uworld and Amboss, who makes sure to give you those chunky, meaty questions so that you can make sure that your brain is ready on test day. Because may I guarantee you guys that on my Peds shelf day, I moved before the timer. Like I was done. I don't even know how early I was done, but I was done pretty early, and I had an unscheduled bathroom break, and as you know, the time keeps going, and I still was able to finish early. So just so you guys know, if you build your stamina properly, when test day comes, it won't be an issue. Internal medicine, for some reason, my stamina, well, no. We're gonna talk about that in another video, I promise. It's coming when I'm gonna talk to you about my mistakes for the internal medicine shelf. I passed. I honored this past shelf. Okay, so there's a difference in preparation, and I'm going to talk to you guys about my mistakes in another video. Last thing you want to make sure you incorporate, or last things you want to make sure you incorporate into your Peds preparation is I watched Divine early into the preparation, and then I watched Emma Holiday at the end. I'm not saying that you should do it in that order. I'm not saying you have to watch both. But I am saying that if you watch a review video from one of these students, you're guaranteed to feel more confident and better, especially if you can repeat back the answers to them. That's what I like to do. I like to pretend that I'm actually in the classroom and I talk back to them. So, yeah. I liked both, and I used both, and I'm going to use both again prepping for psych and everything else from here on out. So, test day strategies that worked for me this time. I pray before every exam. Every exam I pray before to help keep my mind together. I have prayer oil. I also use these incense. I put them right underneath my nose, or I put them on like my finger or my hand so I could just smell it during the middle of the exam. I think my friend's mom made it. It has like tea tree and lavender and eucalyptus, like a whole bunch of stuff that really smells good but also really helps you to stay calm. Because my test day was actually pretty hectic and everything in me wanted to scream and cry, but there was no point because we had to take a test and we had to stay focused. So test day strategies that I wish I had done better on internal day. So I actually skip questions. If I see a question stem and I'm like, my brain's not there yet, then I skip. If I see a question stem and there's 2 answer choices going on in my head, I highlight and I skip. I always try to make sure that I pre-read the questions, because that was one thing I did on step day that I didn't like, that I didn't always pre-read the question. I would just be like, I don't want to do this one right now, or I don't want to do that one. So if I pre-read, then I at least know what I'm coming back to when I come back to it. That saved a lot on time. So on my scratch sheet of paper, let's say I was between B, D, and E, I'd write out B, D, and E. I wrote out my thoughts. I'm like, is it this? Is it that? So that when I come back to it, I know where my brain was going, and hopefully my brain has warmed up enough that it's ready to go with whatever. I don't change my answers. That's #1 test day rule. And for some reason, for the internal medicine shelf, I did not follow that rule. I changed my answers quite a few times. So go with your gut. Your gut's usually right. If your gut's not right, and you can't prove without a shadow of a doubt that your gut's not right, do not touch that answer. I allow myself only 1 question where I can change my answer. Only 1. So I really try to make sure that I have all my bets on it before I change it. Other than that, if you guys are practicing your timing on practice test days too, you'll be solid. Remember that there's no breaks, so that part sucks. But if you have to go to the bathroom, like I said, I had an unscheduled bathroom break, you're allowed to go, your time just runs. So make sure that it's after you've gone through all your questions, or at least pre-read all your questions and are at the end, so that when you come back, you could just go through and finish. As for anything else, that's really all I have for you guys. If you have any questions, please always leave a comment. Please let me know what else you'd like for me to talk about. Just so you guys know, the internal medicine shelf day review is coming. It's not going to be discussing topics or anything, but it's going to be discussing the mistakes that I felt like I made and talking to you guys about the test as well. As for the Peds shelf, I feel it's definitely doable. You just have to put the time and the effort forward. And if you do that, you'll be solid. Stay energized, stay motivated, stay positive. Do not let your mind go to that dark place during that test. And just know that you're doing your best. And if you do your best, what else can you do, right? Do your best, leave the rest. All right, guys, until next time.